Purchasing a home here in Michigan can have many expenses outside of the sale price. One that is most confusing for most home buyers is going to be property taxes and other expenses. So in this video, we want to run through the different property taxes, how they work here in Michigan, and a little bit about the property tax section of purchasing and owning a home in Michigan. So if you're looking to move to Michigan, maybe you live in Michigan, you want a better understanding, then this video will give you an in-depth understanding of property taxes and other hidden expenses that we see when purchasing a home here in Michigan. Real quick, before we get into everything, one of the reasons why we're doing this video itself is because so many of the comments that we get are about property taxes and how expensive they are and how inexpensive they are, and they're all over the place. And I think most people are actually very misinformed when it comes to property taxes compared to other states. So we'll talk about that in a minute, so stay tuned for that. But we also want to deep dive into the specific, the nuances, how they work, and so you can have a better understanding of property taxes here in Michigan. Why am I capable of telling you this information? My name is Matt Talbot. I am the broker owner of Redefined Real Estate here in Southeast Michigan, and I am responsible for the sale of hundreds of homes throughout Southeast Michigan. I've talked to thousands of clients through the years, and I have a very in-depth understanding of not only Michigan real estate, but of course, property taxes. So again, this video, we're going to give you the overview. We're going to deep dive and let you know about a lot of those hidden expenses. So to kick us off, we're going to talk about taxable value and assessments. In Michigan, property taxes are based on the taxable value of the property, which is determined by the local assessors. The taxable value is subject to annual increase capped by the inflation rate multiplier. So as an example, for 2025, this multiplier is set at 3.1%, meaning your property's taxable value can increase by up to 3.1% unless there's been significant changes like ownership transfer or major renovations. Okay, so let me explain that in layman's terms. You have two different values when it comes to a property. You have a taxable value and a state equalized value, okay? And your current tax rate is based off the taxable value, which is your current tax rate, okay? That continues to go up year after year based on inflation. So for this year, and here in 2025, that's expected to go up 3.1%. So it can only go up as far as either the cost of living or up to 5%. So one conservative way to look at this is to understand your property taxes here in Michigan are going to go up about 5% per year. Now, the difference between, like I said, the taxable value and the state equalized value, where that comes into play. So state equalized value continues usually to appreciate if the market is appreciating like it is in Michigan. So the current owner pays the current taxable value, and usually when a property changes hands, so when you purchase a home, there's going to be a new tax rate. A lot of people don't understand this. A lot of real estate agents don't understand this. A lot of mortgage people don't explain this. And what happens is you purchase a home, you wait a year or so, then all of a sudden your taxes go up quite a bit. And people are like, what the heck? I didn't budget for this. This is not what I planned for. This is not what I agreed upon. But that happens countless times. I can't tell you how many times this happens on a regular basis in our marketplace. And so understanding what happens is critically important so you can budget for the future. So when you purchase a home, the home goes from the current taxable value and typically goes over the new state equalized value, and the new equation is based off of that. So the difference between your taxable value and your state equalized value is usually what the assessor will use when purchasing a home. And depending how long that current owner has been in the house, the current owner you're purchasing from, that's dependent on how much that will go up. So the longer they've been in the house, usually the more they'll go up here in Michigan because properties have appreciated so much over the years. Hopefully that was a clear way of explaining the difference between taxable value and state equalized value so you can understand how that affects your home purchase. Additional too, so what does this value tie into? It ties into what we call a millage rate. Millage rates, property taxes are calculated by multiplying the taxable value of the local millage rate, which varies by municipality. These rates include levies for schools, local government, and other public services. For accurate calculation, you can use Michigan's property tax estimator. That's a decent one, but also a good real estate agent should help you do this by hand and should be able to explain to you step by step by hand in an easy way of what your taxes are going to be roughly. So again, to break down millage rate in kind of layman's terms or understandable terms, millage rate are based off what we vote on. So let's just say there's a new school update or there's a new park going into your community, and when you vote to either take on that new assessment or not take on that new assessment. And when you do, then there's an additional kicker that gets onto your millage rate. So As an example, many communities might have a millage rate of 33.3, okay? And it's always like a really weird number. It'll be like 33.3212, right? And that will be their principal rate. And so that millage rate is just based off what you agree to pay in your taxes and what the government has agreed to put in your taxes from a local perspective, okay? And so the taxable value has an equation based off that millage rate, and that's how much you pay. So a home worth $1 million compared to a home worth $500,000 in the same area, you'll pay typically half the taxes, right? And so that's an important understanding. The higher the price point, the more taxes that you're going to end up paying. That's just how it works because it's based on a millage rate multiplier. So they're literally multiplying it by the millage rate to get an equation to give you your tax rate. Typically, your taxable value is about half of the property value. And so you divide that by 1,000, you times it by your millage rate, and that's going to be your approximate tax. Now, they're not always assessed right in that exact way. So that's where it gets a little bit confusing, but that's a quick way to understand that. Last but not least in this section is going to be your principal residence exemption or homesteaded exemption, okay? So if you have one primary residence, you're allowed to have one primary residence here in Michigan, and if it's the house that you live in, you're subject to a significant tax reduction, okay? So if it's a second house or if it's a rental house, you pay a higher rate. But those with a principal residence exemption pay a much lower rate. In many marketplaces, this is 30 to 40% less than a non-homesteaded rate, okay? And so where this comes into play a couple times. One is you need to make sure that the home is currently homesteaded that you're purchasing. Otherwise, you need to factor in a higher tax rate. And number two is when you purchase a home, this is one of the most critical things in closing, okay? You're gonna walk away with a couple different forms. One is a form that says, hey, this is a property tax exemption form, okay? It's a homesteaded property tax exemption form. And you take that to your local township or city. We recommend you doing it, not even have your agent doing it. And you're going to submit 2 copies. They're going to take the original and they're going to stamp another copy. Why you want that? In case the city or township in which that you're in, screws this up, you want stamped proof that you got this done. Because again, this is 30-40% less than the normal tax rate. So hopefully that makes sense. And the second form is going to be what's called a property transfer affidavit. And that's going to transfer the property into your name. And that's required by law to do within 45 days here in the state of Michigan. So there's a lot of hidden things when it comes to taxes. There's a lot of confusion here. So if you have questions, if you want to deep dive into your personal house here in Michigan, or if you're moving here to Michigan, you want to have a more thorough understanding of your price point, the area that you're looking, comparing, contrasting maybe one county to another, one city to another, we're happy to do that. Let us know in the comments below, or as always on our YouTube main page here, you go to our Calendly link, schedule an appointment with myself or my team, and we can get a specific deep dive for you. So there's a lot of nuances here, but we want to give you guys the overview so you have a decent understanding of it. So when you're looking at your tax bill, or when you're moving here to Michigan, you know what to plan for. So in this video, we had a whole list of other homeowners expenses, but we talk about that a lot in this channel. So stay tuned for other videos that have that. However, one other feature, one other piece I wanted to mention when it comes to taxes here in Michigan, and that's going to be understanding if you have a local assessment on your tax bill, okay? So I'll give you an example. An example of an assessment is, let's say the city's working on sidewalks in front of your home, where you're actually responsible for that sidewalk. Most people don't understand that or know that, but in most communities, you're responsible for that sidewalk. So the city could come in and say that sidewalk's in bad shape, we're going to replace it, and we're going to charge you on your tax bill. We're going to charge that to you, okay? And so a lot of times there'll be these assessments either happening or have happened in the past, and there's an upcoming bill, okay? And so understanding and having a real estate agent that's going to deep dive into those assessments to let you know, hey, by the way, there's an assessment coming up. You're going to get hit with a $4,000 bill over the next couple of years for a new sidewalk, as an example. And these bills can vary. It's city to city, township to township. And so there's a lot of different variances of what that looks like. And that's just for the taxes portion and the city and government portion. You can also have different assessments through your homeowners association, your HOA, and different items like that as well too that you should know about. And a lot of agents, they're not either well-versed or trained to understand this, or they don't do a good job deep diving, or in the worst case scenario, a lot of agents actually kind of hide it from you or kind of look the other way. They don't want you to know about it because then it makes the house a little bit less affordable, makes the sale a little bit harder. You want to sign up for an ethical agent, to work with an ethical agent that's going to do right by you and look into the taxes. They're going to give you real numbers. They're going to give you real estimates, not just like, oh, we're going to use the current tax rate, which is what most real estate agents and loan officers do. I don't mean to hate on it, but it's just what happens. It's very, very true. So you need to find a good organization that's integrity integrity driven to make sure to give you the good examples of what's going to happen in the reality of the situation, so you don't get blindsided year 1, year 2, year 3 of owning a house. This can mean thousands of dollars for you. It's an important piece to understand, and hopefully this video gave you a little bit better understanding of taxes and how that is affected when moving here to Michigan. Like I said, if you want further information, comment below. Send me an email, info@listingmi.com. listingmi.com is another way to contact me directly. Feel free to reach out at any time. We'd love to understand your situation, help you out along the way when it comes to this taxable stuff. There's a lot of nitty-gritty things here, and you need to understand because it could mean thousands of dollars in your pocket. Okay, guys, hopefully you learned a lot about property taxes here in Michigan, how that affects your home purchase or your current living situation. We decided to actually take this video and make it into 2 parts. So this is going to be part 1 about mostly taxes, and then part 2 is going to be additional expenses that are usually unknown in Michigan. There's going to be 1 video. I'm trying to make these a little bit more digestible for you guys. So if you click next or stay tuned to the end of this video, we're going to have it pop up for part 2, and that's going to be additional expenses when it comes to purchasing a home in Michigan, additional unknown expenses that you're not going to typically think about when purchasing a home. We'll take you through those as well too, so you can have a deeper understanding of what that looks like when buying a home here in Michigan. Also, be sure to hit subscribe and hit the bell to be notified for that video. If you're seeing this live, the video is not live yet. It's going to be up in the next couple weeks here. So you got to hit subscribe to be notified for it, and you can get more information there as well too. Thanks.